Joy comes in the morning. This is Mika. Welcome to Single to Mrs. I am so happy to see you all this morning. I am so happy to be a part of your lives this morning. God is so happy to have woken you up this morning. He's happy to see your beautiful faces. He's happy to see your smiles or your little frowns, but that's okay. By the end of the day, you will be smiling because God is going to bless your life. He's going to plant a seed in your life today that nobody can ever take away from you. God has a plan for your life today, and it's not nothing negative because God is of love. God is of goodness. God is of greatness. God is of miracles. And I'm so excited for you all to share that with me on my channel. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to hear the great stories of God and what He has done for you. So if you came from the darkness last night, you had a bad dream or whatever it may be, come into the light with God and God is going to bless you. Today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my channel, Single to Mrs., because it is so important to me to share my story, share my journey with you all, and let you know why I titled my channel this. As a young 18-year-old mama, as I started off to be mommy, it was so many, like I said, ups and downs, trials and tribulations, but so much joy, so much happiness. I always call my daughter, she's my joy, because I didn't know where I was going at the time when I had her. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that I had to be a good mother and I had to provide for her and I had to take care of her. And that's the only thing that I cared to do, because coming up with both of my parents, I looked up to them. But just because, you might have that does not mean that your life is going to be like that. I myself, yes, I wanted to raise a child when I first had my first child with both parents, but that doesn't always turn out like that. Some of us do not get that opportunity to do that. And it's okay, because at the end of the day, when the absent parent was not there, I still had God and I still had a father for my child, because everything that I needed for my daughter, God provided. If I needed food for my daughter, I called upon the good Lord and He provided. If I needed shoes for her or clothes for her or whatever it is I needed for my child that God blessed me with, He provided. And I was so grateful. I was so happy, even when, I had my hard days and I was trying to work. And before I even got off work, I was like, okay, how am I going to have enough gas money to do this, do that, and do this with my child? Or how was I going to feed her? How was I going to put food on the table like my parents did for me? But at the end of the day, God always made a way. And that's what I want to share with you all, how God will always make a way in your life to provide, not only for yourself, but for your children. So no matter what it looks like, never give up on yourself and never give up on your children, because God is there. When, like I said, He is a father and He loves us and He will provide and He will do all the wonderful things that you need. So, like I said, as a teenager mother, I was growing, I was learning, I was working, I was going to school, and, I encountered different people, I just had my own journey that I was on. And like I said, as I was growing, I was trying to see, and I can be honest about that. I was trying to see if I could find a father for my child. So, I got into different relationships and it didn't work out. And it's okay, because I was looking for an earth father. Even though I knew I had the heavenly father, I was looking for an earth father for my child. And, I went from one relationship to the next relationship, and it did not mean that I was the one that was the bad one in the relationship or, just wasn't doing right. It's just that sometimes other people can't give you what you are looking for, and that's okay. You can't fault them. So, I just went on and went on and went on. And then, one day I told God, I said, look, and I had matured more and I had learned more. And I was like, I need a husband, you know? And I remember my father, this is a little thing between me and my daddy. And I said, Dad, I said, I need my oil change. And that was part of, like I said, looking for a earth father for my child and to help me and support me at the time. And I went to my father, and I said, Daddy, I said, can you change the oil in my car for me? And he looked at me. He said, you need to get you a husband. And I tell you, it just shocked me for a minute. And I'm like, okay, Dad, like, I can't believe that you're saying this to me. But I knew that my dad was joking, but he was being real at the same time because my dad was getting older and he had already done his part in my life and my daughter's life. And it was time for me to, move on. I was 35 at the time. I can't get them birthday cakes anymore and all of that I was used to from my daddy. It's time for me to get a husband so he can provide those things for me and do those things for me as far as being a mechanic and all of that. So I went out and I did what daddy told me to do. I found me a husband and I am so grateful for that. But it did not come easy looking for that husband. I had to pray about it. I had to be honest with God about it. I knew what I needed, but again, I had to talk to God, get permission from God first. Father, may I, have a husband now? I'm getting older. I can't be hopping from one person to the next person. I can't do that. That's not why you assigned me here. It's time for me to be a woman. It's time for me to grow. And so I remember, like I said, meeting my husband that I have now. And I did share that story with him. I said, it's just so funny that my dad was like, listen here, girl, it's time for you to get you a husband. And, we laugh about it now, but it's just so true. It comes to a point in your life that it's time for you to move on. And you can't depend on your parents all your life. You have to grow. You have to, leave the nest. And, you can't just feed off of them the rest of your lives. So just remember that in what I'm telling you. So anyway, like I said, I met my husband and he has been my backbone. He has been my support. He has been that earthly parent to my oldest child, my daughter. And, and one of the things that was so important when I met my husband was that he was a safe person. And I didn't just meet my husband for myself. It was like an interview for myself and my daughter at the time. Because when you get with people, and I want you all to hear me and hear me good. When you get with people in your lives, I know a lot of us are like, okay, I'm getting with him because that's my man and blah, blah, blah. But when you have children, it's an interview process for yourself and for your children because you want people to be around your children that are safe, that are loving, that you can trust. And, that is so important, especially in these times. You have to make sure that you can trust the partner that you're with. And I'm telling you, I gave my husband heck. Now, remind you, these other people that I was with in my past, I should have drilled them a little bit more, but I did not. But see, that wasn't that season that I was in. That wasn't the time that I was in. So the season that I had came into was the season where I was like very strong and very determined because, like I said, Daddy said I needed a husband. And so I know how he raised me, and I know how my father helped me assist with my child. So I had to look for all those things that was a safe place for myself and for my daughter. And I did that. And I thank God for that every day because that's something I had to pray about too. Not only be detailed in what I wanted in a husband. I went from everything from the height of my husband with God that I wanted to I wasn't good with finances. And I can be honest about that. And I ended up with an accountant. So I thank God for that. Somebody who can manage money, who can manage our bills and know that we will be okay. and I thank God for that. I'm telling you, when you are so detailed with God and what you want for your life, He will bless you with that. But like I said, you have to let them know, not only for females, but for men. When you want a young lady that is, you know, smart, kind, loving, a nurturer, would be a good mother, all of that, you can have that, but you got to talk to God about it. So just make sure that you are very detailed in your prayers. And so, like I said, myself and my husband got together and, you know, it was just such a blessing. But I just, in the beginning, it was, like I said, it was rough. I was rough. I didn't even know how to talk to my husband, and I can be honest. I was F-bombing and talking all crazy and, very not ladylike. And that's because, like I said, I was going from person to person, and they might not have been, the most classiest person I was dealing with at the time. You know, they were a little rough around the edges, so it made me rough around the edges. And so, I was cussing, I was, acting up, I was fighting, I was doing all kind of craziness, y'all. And then, like I said, and I met my husband, and he definitely sowed a seed into me to calm me down, to say, hey, this is not how you talk to a husband. This is not how you talk to a partner. And, I had to learn that. And at first I was like, wait a minute now, you're not going to control me and how I'm talking and, just all these things. Because like I said, I was a little on the wild side. I was a little on the untamed side. But I had to bring that all down and was like, okay, who this man think he talking to? But okay, like I wasn't used to anybody correcting me and telling me my faults, and then I was like, oh, wow. He's not trying to control me. He's just saying it's a better way of doing things and handling your husband and, eating off the same plate. As y'all learn my journey, I'll share a little bit with you all more about my husband. But when I first met him, he prepared a dinner for us and we ate from the same plate. And I'm going to tell you something that definitely changed my life. At first I was like, I'm not sharing off your plate. I want my own plate. But as you grow, as you prosper, as you become a mate, as you become a wife, or as you become a husband, you learn that you need to eat off the same plate. And that will teach you a lot of things. Respect is big in a marriage. Love is big in a marriage. Comfort is big in a marriage. When you get with the right one, let me share something with y'all, because I think sometimes y'all are looking and you don't understand. But when you get with the right person in your life, they will humble you. Just like God can humble you, the right person in your life will humble you. And they will show you different ways. They will love on you. You are able to tell that person all your sorrows, all your sadness, and they will hold you and they will tell you, I got you. And genuinely, I got you. You will be able to share your most intimate secrets with this person and know that they got you. You will never fail again. Nobody can ever break you again because you will be whole with them. And that is such a guarantee. So listen to what I'm saying today to you all. You can go from being untamed to a housewife. And that is the title of my video today, Untamed to a Housewife. Because right now, I am able to be at home with my children. I am able to support my husband. I am able to take care of the necessities that we need here while he goes off to work each and every day. and provides for us. A husband is a provider. He's a lover, and he is all the things that God says a man should be. So if you want that, you got to pray for that. You got to be detailed about that. But anyway, I'm not going to hold you long, but I had to share my story of Single to Mrs. with you. And I want to tell you to please like my channel, share my channel, subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so, and comment on my channel. When you comment, it gives me more courage to keep going, to keep growing, to keep exploring, to keep prospering. And I appreciate you all for that. I pray that this video helped you today if you're looking for that real person in your life. If you're looking to love on somebody in your lifetime, if you're looking to be loved on in this lifetime, I pray that this video helped you. And I pray that you are successful. All right. Love you. Have a great day. Bye.